Understood.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so let's start with the, we will look again the short term test. What was your response? And we will discuss those questions, and then we will move forward. And today we are going to read the president, union executive, that I mean headed by president. So today's your average marking is 10.55. I mean out of 15 points, one question for each point. So some of you was saying that I should declare your answer, I mean result in class, but whenever you are giving submitting this, you people have already got this result, I mean how much you are doing correct. So I don't think there is any sense of sending it again, whole list. So everyone should evaluate for itself how much they are doing. And I am showing here every day what is your average mark. If you are doing better than average, then you can think that you are doing well. If your number is lower than average marks, then you need improvement. From there you can, I mean, understand how much you need more to do work on these Indian polity and constitution. So first question was, who appoint the chairman of State Public Service Commission? So State Public Service Commission chairman is appointed by the governor. 68% marked it correctly. And can anyone tell what other the offices are appointed by the governor? Except this State Public Service Commissioner, what other the officers are appointed by the governors? Have you heard about Finance Commission in state? There is also a concept of Finance Commission in state. Those are appointed by the governors. And if you would have heard about the state election commissioners who conduct the election of Panchayati Raj, and the state finance commission work is divide the revenue between the state government and Panchayati Raj and municipalities. So those posts are also appointed by the governor. But one interesting thing is,
Governor.
yes, one interesting thing with this state public service commission is, it is they are appointed by the governor, but they are removed by the president. Only president can remove them.
President.
Yes, so remember this thing. I mean, they are appointed by the governor, but they are removed by the president. Next question: which union territory has a representation in the Rajya Sabha? So Lakshadweep, Chandigarh, and Andaman Nicobar.
Right.
Delhi is the right answer. But can Andaman Nicobar do not have representatives in Rajya Sabha? Can anyone tell me why they do not have their representatives in Rajya Sabha?
So because after the 1917 amendment came in 1970, that only Pondicherry and Delhi will have members in Rajya Sabha.
Okay. Because
Sir, I don't know. Please explain it.
again I forgot to share my screen. Now can you people see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I forgot it. So earlier I was discussing the first question, and now I am discussing the second question. So you people got what I have said about the State Public Service Commission and other officers, what I have explained. You people understood that thing, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so next is Rajya Sabha. So I was talking about that, why I mean Lakshadweep, Chandigarh and Nicobar do not have Rajya Sabha representative. The only answer is that because their population is so less, that's why I mean they are not getting any representation from Rajya Sabha. If their population will increase in future, and if C to divide, I mean, as it is, maybe it is going to happen after 2026, 2026, then maybe they got some representatives from these places also, like Andaman Nicobar and other places. But currently their population is so less, that's why they don't have any representation in Rajya Sabha. Next is, how many members in the Rajya Sabha are nominated? So most of you have did it correctly. That is 12 member. Next question is, no one can be convicted twice for the same, and this doctrine is called double jeopardy. Most of you have also got it correctly, 84%. This question has created a bit confusion to you. Who is the chairman of Interstate Council? Interstate Council chairman is Prime Minister, but I think some of you have marked the President, Planning Minister, and all. Do you know who is the chairman of regional, what we say, regional councils? There is regional council, like
Chief Minister.
you people know, right? Can anyone tell how regional councils are formed?
Chief Minister
Yes, sir.
by the governor.
No, no, no. Yesterday I have explained you about the in 1956 there was a commission formed known as Fazal Ali under the Justice Fazal Ali. So Fazal Ali Commission. So Fazal Ali Commission has recommendation for the formation of regional councils, and under the Fazal, after the recommendation of Fazal Ali Council for regional councils, Indian government had started to form regional councils, and they are headed by Home Minister. Regional councils are headed by Home Minister, but Interstate Council, it is a constitutional body. Interstate Councils is mentioned in our constitution, so it is a constitutional body and it is headed by the Prime Minister of India. Got it? The next is, who is known as first among equals. I have marked it incorrectly. I mean here as a president, but correct answer is Prime Minister. So most of you did it correctly, but some of you also have confused. So president is the first citizen of India, but the first among equals concept are derived from United Kingdom, and this concept of United Kingdom is explaining from their councils that your voice is not clear, sir. Is my voice not clear? Somebody has messaged that my voice is not clear. Is it clear?
यस सर, क्लियर नहीं हो रही है आवाज.
अब क्लियर है? Still it is not clear?
Yes, sir.
फर्स्ट क्या आ रही है, क्या आवाज? क्लियर है आवाज या अभी भी फर्स्ट क्या आ रही है? हेलो, हेलो, हेलो. अच्छा, हाँ, can you people hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think some internet issue is going on. Due to that
Yes, sir.
it's happening. Okay, so let's come back again to our topic. I'm really sorry for that. You people can see my screen?
No, sir.
My screen is not visible?
No, sir.
No?
No, not.
No, you'll have to share it again.
Now it is?
So now it is visible.
Okay. So I was explaining the concept of first among equals.
Now,
Okay, so concept of first among equals is derived from the United Kingdom, and as we know that there are parliamentary form of government in United Kingdom, and their cabinet is the highest executive body. I mean, highest topmost executives are part of the cabinet, and in those topmost executive, prime minister is the first
sir.
person. Yes, yes. Someone is saying something.
Can you explain once again who is known as Prime Minister?
Who is known as?
Sir.
Sorry, I didn't get what you are saying.
Who is known as a previous that risky questions? Once again, explain.
Can you type in messages? I will see that. Okay, so I was explaining the concept of first among equals. This is derived from United Kingdom, and we know that cabinets are the topmost executive, and in those all the cabinet, prime minister is the one step ahead. That's why we see him as a first among equals. All cabinets are equal, but in all the cabinet, he is the first person. He is one step ahead of them. So from there we have derived this concept. This is an English concept derived from United Kingdom, and it is for the prime minister, not for the president. So remember this. First among equal concept is with prime minister, and it is evolved from the UK, United Kingdom. Then next is the National Judiciary Academy. Most of you have did it wrong. That where is National Judiciary Academy is situated. Most of you have marked with Delhi, but Delhi is not the correct answer. Correct answer is Bhopal. So can anyone tell me what is the function of National Judicial Academy?
Just to train the judges.
Yes, to train the judges of what?
Various high courts and supreme courts.
Judges of the High Court mainly. I mean, this is found for the to train the judges of the High Court, and some research works also happen here. Sorry.
Many Minister officers working Supreme Court.
Minister officers working in some workers of the Supreme Court also get training there, but mainly it is formed to train the judges of the High Court, and it is situated in Bhopal. So remember that it is situated in Bhopal. Then next question is, from which country's constitution the judicial review have been borrowed? Most of you have marked correctly, that is USA. We have derived this, this concept of judicial review is evolved from the USA, and we also have derived it from there, but we also have our own Article 13 from where Supreme Court derived its power of judicial review. Supreme Court as well as High Court. Next question is, what are the articles define directive principle of state policy? So that is 36 to 51. 51A is not part of DPSP, so please don't get confused. 51A is the fundamental duties and it comes under the 4A, part 4A of the Constitution. So 36 to 51 is DPSP. Next question is, on whom does Constitution confer responsibility for the enforcement of fundamental rights? So who has the responsibility to enforce the fundamental rights? If someone's fundamental rights is violated, it's the Supreme Court's duty to enforce the fundamental right. Next question is, in the Constitution, opportunities for the development of scientific temper, humanism and spirit of inquiry and reform are founded. Where this thing is mentioned in our Constitution, in last class we have discussed it. It is mentioned in fundamental duties. Then next is, which of the following is not directive principle of state policy? So developing the scientific temper is not a part of DPSP, because just now I have explained that this scientific temper is part of fundamental duties. So if anyone have read it properly, he would have got this answer, but ironically most of you have did it wrong comparison to last answer. Next question is, which of the following is not specifically mentioned in Article 19 of the Constitution? We know freedom of press is part of the Article 19, but it is nowhere mentioned as freedom of press. Freedom of press come under freedom of speech and expression. That is clearly we have identified. Supreme Court had explained that freedom of press is part of freedom of speech and expression, but it is not mentioned in Constitution.
So what was the average score of this mock?
Sorry, what is the?
What was the average score of the mock?
Average?
This mock.
Average score. Okay. I will explain after completing this last two questions. And the next question is, which of the following is right against exploitation? That is our prohibition of employment of children in factories and hazardous employment. Which article it is mentioned? In which article this thing is mentioned?
24.
Yes, Article 24 it is mentioned.
24.
Next, yes. Any dispute regarding the violation of fundamental rights can be presented. So wherever any disputes come regarding the violation of fundamental rights, not just Supreme Court, but we can also go to the High Court directly for the enforcement of fundamental rights. Most of you have did it correct. So average score of this is 10.28. 43% has responded and they have responded 10.28. Whoever has scored 11, 12, 13, that is quite good marks. Your preparation is quite well. But whoever is going below 11, they should read more and more and clear their concepts. Okay, so let's move on to our lecture for today, that is Union Executive. That is, we call President is the head most of all the union executive. So Article 52 deals with, president. It start with 52 and it ends with 78. Can anyone tell me what starts after Article 78?
Sir, Rajya Sabha and
Parliament.
हाँ
Lok Sabha.
Union legislature in a constitutional term, it's union legislature that start from 79 and it goes to which article?
So 112.
123. It goes till 123 and after 123 start 124, that is for Supreme Court.
Supreme.
Oh, so let's discuss the union executive that starts with 52. So who are the parts of union executive? President, vice president, prime minister, council of minister and attorney general of India. They are the topmost executive of our country and they are mentioned between article 52 to 78. Then next come that even though president is not a member of either house of the parliament, he is an integral part of the parliament, understood from the following fact. Why we say that president is part of our parliament? Does anyone have any idea?
Yes, sir.
So please repeat the question, please.
Our question is that why we consider president as the part of parliament?
Because he is actively involved in the legislative process also.
How?
Consent.
Sir,
assent is
without
important.
his
His assent is
assent,
important.
Yes, go on. Without his assent?
Any bill has not passed.
Yes. So the basic reason are that president is the part of if we will, whenever we talk the whole legislature, we count Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and president. Why we count president? Because he gives the final assent to the any bill, and that bill turns as an act after his assent. And second thing is that he also release ordinance whenever parliament is not in working house. During that time president gives forms the ordinance. So these are two basic reasons. That's why president is part of the parliament, and he also summons the house and prorogues the house. He calls the house for the meeting and he also prorogues. He also stop the meeting that after this much time they will again come back. So his work is summon as well as prorogue the house of parliament. I have already told he gives the assent to every bill of the parliament for becoming an act, and he also has power to dissolve the Lok Sabha. President has those powers. So always remember president is also part of legislature. Why? Because he calls the session, he prorogues, he summons the session, he prorogues the session, and he dissolves the Lok Sabha, he gives assent to the bill, and he also releases.
Calls the joint meeting.
Yes. Then next thing is Article 53. It confers the executive power of the Union in the President, and he shall discharge this power either directly or through officers subordinate to him according to the Constitution. It is mentioned in Article 53 that any executive work will happen under his name, under his authority, by his subordinate officers or by him directly. So all the executive orders are taken by Union government under the head of President. And President is regarded the first citizen of India as well as Supreme Commander of Armed Force. Can anyone tell me from where we have derived this Supreme Commander of Armed Force to?
USA, sir.
Yes.
USA.
Yeah, this concept is in USA and we have derived it from there, that President is Supreme
Yes.
Commander of Armed Force.
USA.
Next is Article 74 mentions about the Council of Minister. It is original read about Council of Minister headed by Prime Minister to aid and advise. It's emergency. Sorry. So Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister aid and advice to the President. However, it did not clarify whether the President was bound by the advice or not. So before the 42nd Amendment Act, it was not, clearly written in our Constitution that whenever Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister advice to the President, it would be binding or not on the President. But from 42nd Amendment Act, it is made necessary, it is made binding to the President that whatever the Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister will advise them, President will do the same thing. Through 44th Amendment Act 1978, Article 74 again amended, and a provision was added that President may ask to Council of Ministers to reconsider the advice given by him. And from the 44th Amendment Act, it came, again to the from the 44th Amendment Act, it came that parliamentarians made an amendment that whenever if any Council of Ministers is saying anything, advising anything to do President has the right to send it back to the Council of Ministers for reconsidering. If again the Council of Ministers will say that thing to do or advise to do President, then President would be bounded to do that thing. That is what it is mentioned here in Article 74, and it is briefly explained here that what changes by 42nd Amendment Act and what changes by 44th Amendment Act came. And here COM means Council of Ministers, so do not get confused. So everybody got what is under 74 written, Article 74?
Sir, can you explain it again?
Before this 42nd Amendment Act, it was not clear in our Constitution that if Council of Ministers will advise, it would be binding on President to do that thing, or it would be not binding upon President to do those things. And but by the 42nd Amendment Act, it made as that whatever the Council of Ministers will advise, it would be binding to the President. Means President को वो करना ही होगा जो Council of Ministers कहेगा 42nd Amendment Act के थ्रू. But उससे पहले before that it was not clear in Constitution that it would be binding or it would be up to President to accept that advice or not. So this thing is come from 42nd. But by the 44th Amendment Act, they added that if President thinks anything, that it should be reconsidered. Suppose something Council of Ministers said to impose emergency, but then President can send them back that advice that once reconsider, or if they are sending or anything to do President, then President can ask them to once reconsider. But if they will again say that to do, then President would be binding to do those things. Got it? समझ में आया?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's move ahead. Of President. The President is elected not directly by the people but by members of electoral college consisting of we know who can elect only the elected members of both House of Parliament and elected members of state legislatures. But don't forget this union territory legislatures also vote. Which union territories? Delhi and Puducherry. These two union territories elected legislatures also vote for the president. So we both know that both House of Parliament, state legislature and union territory legislatures also vote for the president. So these three groups. So let's understand what is the system of proportional reservation through single transferable vote system. What it means single transferable vote system? Means you have only one vote and it would be transferred to whom you will, I mean whomever you want to elect, you have to vote that person. So single transfer means simultaneously you cannot vote to, I mean you don't have, I mean have to vote 2 or 3 or 4 members on the same level. तो हमारे यहाँ जो चलता है वो सिंगल ट्रांसफरेबल वोट सिस्टम. So now let's understand how they count the value of vote of an MLA. So total population of state, let's suppose take the example of UP. UP have suppose UP's population is 20 crore and suppose 15 crore people are there for the voting, I mean for electing a person. 15 crore people have the voter ID, they are adult franchisee, they have 15 crore people. So all these 15 crore people would be divided by the all the elected members of state legislature. Mean 15 crore people would be divided by 403. Then they would be multiplied by 1 upon 1000. Mean again they are would be divided by 1000. 15 crore divided by 403 and 1000. So whatever value will come, that would be value of an MLA. So again, what is the value of an MP? An MP's value is first they will calculate what is the total MLA of all the country. Then total MLA of all the country. Suppose total MLA value became 1000. Then they will divide with the total number of elected members of parliament. So they will add the members of the Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha, and then after that they will divide with 1000. What I mean, whatever value will come, suppose I am taking example of 1000, so they will divide with that, and whatever will value come, that would be value of an MP. तो समझ में आया बेसिकली आप लोगों को क्या है ये, how they count the value of an MLA MP?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I mean they are not going to ask these things, but basically this is the concept, so that's why I have briefly explained. So these are the things which you have to remember. There are qualifications. So he should be a citizen of India, he should be a age not less than 35 years, and then another very important qualification that he should be qualified enough to be elected to the Lok Sabha. Why this qualification is added? Because a person should not be a kind of criminal or any such background. Can anyone tell me that if anyone is convicted for any can he elect can he contest for the election? Can you people see my screen? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
it happened again due to the network issue. Wi-Fi is not working properly. Okay, so why it is, I mean I was asking a question whether that a convicted person of a crime can he be can he contest the election of Lok Sabha or Vidhan Sabha? If any person is convicted, is there any condition in that? Okay, he cannot contest. Is there any condition in that?
Sir, can you repeat the question, please?
My question is that if any a person is convicted by under IPC or any other act, so can he contest the election or not?
Yes, sir, he can, only if he is in jail for more than 2 years. Only in that case he cannot contest.
Yes, if anyone is convicted under any crime, that punishment is more than 2 years. I mean, for which he got punished more than 2 years, 2 or more years, then he cannot contest any election. Due to that, these provisions are added here that he should be qualified enough to be elected to a Lok Sabha. So there are some qualifications for a Lok Sabha member, and this is important qualification that he should not be convicted for more than 2 years for any crime. So next is he must not be holding office of profit under the state. Earlier concept of office of profit is not explained in our constitution. It is later explained by our Supreme Court of India that which thing comes under office of profit and which things are not. However, in this context, office of president, vice president, governor, minister of union or state is not considered office of profit. So these posts are not considered as office of profit. If the president elect is a member of parliament and a member of state legislature, if suppose someone on the elected on the post of president and he is a member of parliament or any state legislature, then it would be understood as here it is written he is deemed to have vacated. So it would be understood that he has vacated that seat before entering the office of the president. So simultaneously he cannot hold these important offices. He should be holding only office of president. He cannot be as a minister as well as president, as a governor as well as president, vice president as well as president, or any MP or MLA. So it would be understood that if someone is like Venkaiah Naidu was one of our cabinet minister, when he took the oath of vice president, it was understood that he has relaxed from the office of cabinet minister. He has vacated that office. Then next is for nominating the nomination paper of contesting candidates shall be proposed by not less than 50 electors. So at least 50 people are needed for your proposing your candidature in the parliament, and shall be seconded by not less than 50 people. Should be 50 member of any house, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha or Vidhan Sabha should be proposer, and 50% should also be your seconder. If you want to contest an election for the post of president, you need 50 member of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha or any other Vidhan Sabha. 50 people should be as proposer and 50 people as you required for seconder. Then comes what is the power and function of the president. All the executive functions of the union are carried in the name of president. He appoints the prime minister, he appoints the union government ministers, he appoints the attorney general, comptroller, auditor general. And can anyone tell what are the other offices appointed by president?
The election commissioner.
Election commissioners, all election commissioners, and
Chief
Chief Justice of India.
Chief Justice of India.
Chief Justice of India, and also
Governor.
Justice
Governor.
Justice of India, Governors of India, High Court judges of
Supreme Court.
High Court judges of any state, Supreme Court judges, and UPSC chairman as well as UPSC commission member. So all these things are appointed by the president. And he also uses executive power to remove these persons from their offices. So in some, like for Attorney General, for Governor, he do not need anyone's approval for removing, but for removing a Supreme Court judge, or for removing like a UPSC chairman or Chief Election Commissioner, there are certain provisions given in our constitution that should be followed for removing them. So removing them is not as much easy. So that's why we call them, they have security of tenure. So there is a process. It should be parliamentarian when they will pass it from their assembly, both assembly. Then can president remove those important offices. But all are appointed by the president. All are removed by the president, but through the process. Most important posts are not. He cannot remove them as easily. Military powers: president is the commander in chief and the supreme commander of our armed forces, and he.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, go on.
सर, जैसे प्रेसिडेंट का टर्म खत्म होता है तो जितने भी गवर्नर्स हैं वो सबकी टर्म खत्म हो जाती है?
नहीं. Whenever next president will come and remove that governor, then that governor would be removed. All governor would be removed when his tenure would be complete.
Sir, ये क्यों? Why it is given that the governors have power because of the confidence of the president?
Because that's why we say that union in India, the federalism. Federation, we have the federalism, idea of federalism in India is more related to Canadian, because more power given to the union. President is the part of union executive, and that's why a lots of control is given on the governor through the president. A lot of power given to the president by appointing and removing the governors. Earlier it was done because during that time India came as a young nation in 1947, and there were lots of problems at regional level. So they do not share much power earlier with the states. So they have tried to control it with the center. So these are the some explanation which we have. Then he can also declare the war and pieces. It's under the office of president. Then we all know emergency power 352.
One more question.
Yes. Okay, go on.
जो नो फर्स्ट यूज पॉलिसी है हमारी, जो हमारी कंट्री की नो फर्स्ट अटैक पॉलिसी है, के अगेंस्ट की अगर उसको कमांड करना है प्रेसिडेंट को, वो करना है, ले सकता है?
Yes, no first policy is nowhere mentioned in our constitution, or there is no such law do we have. This is the only policy of government. This is nowhere written in our constitution, or nowhere under any act it is written. It is the just policy of our governments. And if any time president want, or any time if council of ministers will suggest to the president, he will declare for the war against any country. So it is just our policy which we are following, but president have very right and council of ministers have all the authority to initiate any war. If they will order to the president, then president can declare war against anyone, against any country. Next is emergency power. We have already read about Article 352, 356 and 360. So this thing is also declared by president. Then diplomatic power, all the international relations and international agreements are signed under the name of president. All the ambassadors are sent and received by the president. Then comes to the legislative powers. We have already read its legislative power, that it gives final assent. President is an integral part of parliament, seeing that the fact that very bill of the parliament must have his assent before it comes an act. Then next is he summons the session of parliament as well as prorogues. And another important work done by president is that he puts the statement, whichever reports and statements are formed by different constitutional and non-constitutional bodies, it is his duty to put them in front of parliament, like annual financial statement. What is this annual financial statement?
Sir, is this given by Finance Commission?
Annual financial statement. Have anyone read Article 112?
Yes, sir. Union budget.
Yes, but their budget, the term budget is not mentioned there. They are mentioned annual financial statement.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So this is the talk here. It is talking about budget. It is not written budget, but it is the budget. I mean, in Article 112, remember everybody that the term budget is nowhere used in our constitution. It is written as annual financial statement. Next is report of UPSC, which are presented in front of parliament. Report of national commission like SC, ST. Report of finance commissions is put before the parliament by president. Report of CAG, comptroller, auditor general, his report is presented by the president. So all these important commissions present their report to president, and president puts them in front of parliament. Now we will look at its judicial power. The judicial power and function of the president. He appoints the chief justice and judges of Supreme Court as well as High Court. He can seek advice from Supreme Court on any question of law or fact. So it is the power of president that on any issue he can take the advice of the Supreme Court. But it is mentioned that he is not binding by those advices. Whatever Supreme Court is giving advice to him on any matter, if he is asking, those advices by Supreme Court are not binding to him. He can accept that and he can also reject them. Can anyone tell under which article these things are written of the advice taken by President from Supreme Court? It is mentioned in Article 143. In 143, it is mentioned that President can take advice from the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
So it is under 143. Can anyone tell what is written in 123? Because 123 is also important article of Constitution.
Power of ordinance, sir.
Yes, power of ordinance. Whenever, I have already briefly explained that whenever Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha, whenever they are not in the house, prorogue happened. In between that time, President has power to make any law through the ordinance. And when again assembly will start, then that assembly will decide that either they should make ordinance as a permanent act or they will remove it. So that is the work of president as a ordinance, making the formation of ordinance. But he gives those ordinance, he makes those ordinance only on the advice of cabinet ministers headed by prime minister. So now we will see that what is the president's power of granting pardon and other these commutation, remission, respite, reply. So pardon, in which he completely absolves the offender from all punishment and conviction. Any person has committed anything and Supreme Court has given a capital punishment to him, that is death punishment. We use term capital punishment. So president has all the power to free him, completely free him. I mean, he can save him from the death, I mean from capital punishment, and he can make him free if president will want. Then
पार्टन वाली कौन सा आर्टिकल कौन सा है, एक बार रिपीट करना प्लीज.
Article 72.
ओके.
Then next is reprieve. What is reprieve? Reprieve means temporarily stopping that thing, whatever, I mean Supreme Court has given punishment, then president has power to reprieve this, I mean temporarily hold that thing, that punishment, that is reprieve. Then next is respite. What is respite? Awarding lesser punishment on special ground with the accused. What is lesser punishment? Lesser punishment means suppose someone is granted, I mean someone is punished with confinement, or someone is granted as what we say, there is a simple imprisonment, and there is also concept of harsh imprisonment, rigorous imprisonment. If suppose someone get rigorous imprisonment, then president has power to convert it into a simple imprisonment. So here it will not reduce that sentence, it will just someone get 5 year harsh rigorous imprisonment, so it can reduce it 5 year simple imprisonment, that is mentioned under respite. Then our term is remission. What it means? It means reduction of sentence without changing its character. Someone got simple imprisonment of 5 years, then he can short it into 2 years. Somebody has got rigorous imprisonment of 5 years, he can reduce it to 2 years. So here he is just reducing, he is not changing its character. Then next term, the concept of commutation is the substitution of one form of punishment for another, which is of lighter character. So I mean here he is also converting that punishment. Suppose someone got capital punishment, so he will convert those capital punishment into a rigorous imprisonment or simpler imprisonment or confinement. So these comes under commutation. Then there is also an important point here, it is mentioned that few bills cannot be introduced in the parliament without the recommendation of president. That there are some bills which before, I mean you are presenting into the parliament, you have to take permission from the president. That is money bill, or a bill for changing name, area or boundary of any state. If you want to change any state's name, suppose Uttar Pradesh name, you want to change anything else, then before changing that name, a parliament needs a permission from the president. So these are the major functions of the president which we have read. Now we have one more slide. It's 9 o'clock. Can I take 10 more minutes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's
Yes, sir.
read what is the veto power of the president. A bill passed by parliament can become an act only if it receives the assent of the president. When such a bill is presented to the president for his assent, he has three alternatives. Where it is mentioned? It is mentioned in Article 111 of the Constitution, that what thing he can do. He can give his assent if some bill is coming in front of him. He can give his assent. Second thing he can do, he can withhold his assent. I mean just he not giving his assent. Third thing is that he may return the bill. Agar if that is not money bill, if money bill comes, he has to give his assent in first time. He do not have any other options. But if it is not money bill, then he can return it for reconsideration of Parliament. However, if the bill is passed again by the Parliament with or without amendment and again presented to the President must be given the assent. So here it is written that if suppose some bill on Aadhaar made by the Parliament, and whenever it was presented before the President is thinking that something is wrong or something is not properly, and it should be one more time presented before the Parliament to rectify those things in that bill. So he can return that bill, and whenever he return that those bills are again presented before Parliament. Now it is under the Parliament to make any amendment, or again simply without making any amendment they can send it back to the President. Now it would be the duty of President to give his assent. He cannot hold his assent when second time it was sent back to the Parliament, sent back to the President. So there are some also concept of veto. What is the meaning of veto? Veto is the power to stopping someone or something. So what is the concept of absolute veto? Withholding of assent to the bill by the legislature. Denying to give his assent on the bill, that is known as absolute veto. Then next is suspensive veto. Suspensive veto is which can be overridden by the legislature with the ordinary majority. What is suspensive veto? I have explained the point third, that comes under suspensive veto. Suppose a bill came and he returned it. This is the part of his suspensive veto. But if again now here legislative also have power. If they will send back it again, then again they would have to accept it as a, then he has to give his assent. So that is suspensive veto. Next is pocket veto. This is interesting, and this concept is also in America too, but they are all a bit different. That is pocket veto, that is taking no action on the bill passed by the legislature. If suppose legislature have sent something, they have made some bill and they have sent to the President, but President didn't care anything about that. That bill came in his office and he has completely ignored that. He had left those things, without giving any concern about that bill, left it. So it can be there at any time, at any long time. But this concept is not same with America. They also have pocket veto, but somebody sends some bill, there is some limited time, I think 10 days or 14 days, something like that is there. He has to give his assent. But in India, India's pocket veto is much larger. If President want, he can just ignore that as much year as he want. And we have also seen some kind of example like that in 1990s. There was a bill passed and it was sent to the President, but President ignored it and he hasn't given his assent to that to 3, 4, 5 years. So these are the options of veto which is enjoyed by the President. So here all the articles are written of the Union Executive. Some of the articles are really important which you have to some idea, at least article 52, 53, then article 74 regarding the Council of Ministers. Article 76, it talks about the Attorney General of India. We have already discussed what is the function of Attorney General. Then 111, assent to bill by the Parliament, and 112, here it is written that it is annual financial statement. In our constitution it is not written, term of union budget is not used, annual financial statement term is used there. Then article 123 is the power of making ordinance, and article 143 is consultation, is to taking advice of the Supreme Court by the President. So all these and also the pardoning power 72, here it is mentioned. So have some idea about these basic articles, what they are and what is written in that. And I think article 63 is regarding vice president, but here I haven't added it. So everybody is clear? Anything, any doubt you want to clear or ask? Nothing? No doubt?
No, sir. Thank you. Had a great class.
Okay. Thank you everyone. If you don't have any doubt, then you can leave the class.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Are you giving any offline classes?
Am I? Sorry?
Offline classes. I was talking about offline.
Offline classes? No. We are taking only online classes. Are you staying somewhere near Vijayanagar?
Actually, I live in Tilak.
Vijayanagar?